I was halfway through reheating last night's takeout when my phone buzzed. Not the work phone, the personal one. Only 3 people ever call that one, and 2 of them are my parents. The caller ID said, Evan. He never calls. Not unless it's serious. I wiped the microwave steam off my glasses and answered. Yo, I said. You good? Evan sounded breathless, like he'd been jogging. Bro, listen, you're with the CDC or whatever, right? Like, you investigate weird illnesses and stuff? That's a dramatic way to put it, I said, leaning against the counter. But yeah, why? He laughed, nervous. So, this isn't a disease thing, I don't think. It's probably nothing, honestly. I need you to look at something. I frowned. Look at what? There was a pause, the kind where someone's trying to figure out if they sound crazy. It's a statue. A statue, I repeated. Yeah, dude, it's in the middle of the street, and it wasn't there yesterday, and it's smiling, like, stupid smiling. I rolled my eyes, thinking he was messing with me. Call the city. That's not CDC business. I already did, he snapped. They said they didn't authorize anything, and people keep stopping to take pictures. Man, something about it feels off. His voice cracked a little near the end. That's what made me stop joking. Send me a picture, I said. I heard him fumbling with his phone, muttering, Hold up. Okay, I'm sending it now. My messages pinged. I opened the photo. A tall, smooth-faced stone figure stood right in the middle of an intersection, about twice human height, arms at its sides, head tilted slightly forward. And yeah, the smile. It stretched way too wide for something carved from stone. Not grotesque, not disturbing, just wrong, like a face trying too hard to look friendly. That's new, I said quietly. Evan exhaled fast, relieved that I didn't laugh. So you're coming, right? He said, 'cause everyone here's acting like it's cool and normal. But I swear the damn thing wasn't here this morning. I hesitated. Technically, it wasn't my job. But technically, strange structural appearances could tie into environmental contamination reports. And my job had endless loopholes. I'll be there in 20, I finally said. Bet, Evan said. You're gonna think I'm dramatic, bro. But I swear this thing looks like it's happy to see us. The line went dead. I grabbed my field jacket, my ID badge, and a notebook. I had no idea that the statue was only the beginning, and that smiling was the least horrifying thing it would eventually do. I didn't even make it out of my apartment complex before my phone started blowing up. Not texts, not calls, notifications, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all pinging at once like my phone was having a seizure. At first I ignored it, figured it was just the usual flood of nonsense. But then I saw the thumbnails. Statues everywhere. One stood in the middle of a roller coaster track at Six Flags, arms raised like it was welcoming a ride that no longer existed. Another in a kids' area at Navy Pier, positioned in front of a carousel horse like it was taking a picture with it. A third in a zoo enclosure, placed perfectly as if it were a new exhibit, tall, smooth, with that same unnatural smile. The captions were all the same tone. This is so cool, WTF. Anyone know what this art project is? Bro, this popped up overnight? New mascot? Hundreds of videos, tens of thousands of likes. Everyone thought it was a marketing stunt, or an ARG, or some TikTok challenge. But every single statue had the same body shape, same carved smile, same height, the exact same design Evan showed me. Not similar, identical. My stomach tightened. This wasn't a local prank. This wasn't an artist with too much time. This was coordinated. As I drove toward Evan's location, another video autoplayed, a live one. A group of teenagers filming themselves at an abandoned amusement park outside Joliet. The camera turned and I slammed the brakes. The same statue stood behind them at the front gates. No fog, broad daylight, and somehow, it looked like it was leaning forward just a little more than the ones in the photos. The kids were laughing. Look at his smile, one said. putting a hand near its face but not touching it. Yo, his teeth are like... The feed glitched. Just a flicker, barely noticeable. When the video snapped back, the statue's head seemed lower, angled slightly more toward them. But nobody reacted. Nobody screamed. The kids didn't notice a thing. They just kept laughing, unaware of how close they were standing. I shut the stream off. My fingers tapped the steering wheel in an anxious rhythm. A cold feeling spread across my chest, something I hadn't felt on any outbreak call or field inspection. Not fear, something worse. Recognition, like whatever was happening, it was only just beginning, and everybody online was treating it like a meme. I looked up at the road ahead. Evan was waiting at the intersection, and so was the statue. The same smile, the same tilt of its head, and I suddenly wasn't sure if it was in the exact same place as in his photo. When I pulled up, Evan was standing with a small crowd of people, all staring up at the statue like it was some kind of pop-up museum piece. He ran over to my car the second I parked. "Bro, finally," he said, tugging at his hoodie strings. "Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me this thing wasn't here yesterday." "It wasn't," I said. "City didn't authorize anything." Evan's eyes widened, like he needed someone official to confirm the story wasn't just in his head. People were taking pictures, live streaming, posing for TikToks. Someone had even balanced their kid on their shoulders to get him closer to the face. "You see the internet?" Evan asked. "There's more of these, like way more." "Yeah," I said. "I saw." He swallowed hard. "Do you think it's some coordinated art thing? Viral marketing? That many in one night?" I shook my head. "Not possible." He stared up at the statue. "But what is it then?" I didn't answer. Not because I was hiding anything, because I genuinely didn't know. As we approached the base, I noticed the crowd acting strangely. Not scared, more like nervous excitement. The kind people get around celebrities or street performers. A woman beside us whispered, "It's so realistic," like she expected the statue to blink. A guy next to her said, "I heard there's a dozen just in the Midwest." Scrolling through TikTok, Evan nudged me. "Check the pose," he said. "Doesn't it look?" "I don't know." I nodded. "Yeah, it did." I took out my phone and opened the picture he sent earlier. Same statue, same position, same spot. But then I held the picture up next to the statue itself. In the photo, its head was tilted slightly to the left. In front of me, the tilt was almost dead center. Just a few degrees difference. Barely visible unless you compared them side by side. "Could be the angle you took it," I said. But my voice didn't match the confidence I was trying to project. Evan stepped back, slowly. "Man, I swear it wasn't looking straight before." The crowd didn't notice a thing. Too busy taking pictures. Too busy making jokes. One guy put his hand on the statue's arm and laughed. "Feels cold as hell," he said to his girlfriend. I stepped closer to inspect the base. No seams, no machinery, no way something this big got installed overnight without anyone hearing. No tire marks around it. No signs of equipment. Nothing. Just a perfect, smooth pedestal that looked like it had been part of the street forever. Then a phone notification flashed across my screen. A live news headline. Breaking. Multiple cities report sudden appearance of unknown statues. Evan saw it on his own phone at the same time. "Shit," he whispered. "It's national now?" People around us started talking louder, checking their phones, reading the same alert. The mood shifted. Not fear, not yet, just the first spark of unease. A young guy stepped closer, laughing nervously. "Yo, imagine if these things actually moved." The statue's smile caught the light in a way that made the corners of its mouth look deeper, sharper. Evan shivered. "Don't joke like that." I stared at the statue, at its stillness, at its perfect posture. And in the pit of my stomach, I felt something tighten, because that joke didn't feel like a joke anymore. Not with how the crowd was acting. Not with the way the statue seemed to be waiting. Not with the way its head was just barely different from before. Not with the news breaking everywhere at once. Something was coming, and every statue in America was already in position. I don't know exactly when the shift happened, but I remember the moment the tone online changed. Around 3:12 a.m., a video dropped on Twitter, shaky, low quality, recorded through the bars of a rusty fence at Lake Haven Amusement Park in Michigan. A statue stood behind the carousel, tall, smiling, hands folded politely like a greeter. The caption said, "It moved." At first, everyone joked. Edits, memes, people stitching it and pretending to run. But the original uploader at Maddie Deepfree posted again 5 minutes later. This time she whispered into the camera, voice trembling, "Guys, it wasn't facing me before." I sat up in bed. My phone buzzed nonstop as similar posts flooded in from other states: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Minnesota. Photos of statues that had supposedly shifted positions between shots. One clip from a Dollywood parking lot showed a statue leaning slightly closer to the person filming, though nobody online could tell if it was real or just someone trolling for attention. Then the power flickered. My apartment went dark except for the bluish glow of my phone screen. Notifications continued lighting it up like fireworks. Breaking: new statue found outside Denver Aquarium. Breaking: statue spotted on rooftop in St. Louis. Breaking: statue now blocking exit gate at Six Flags. Breaking: they're smiling wider. My stomach tightened. This wasn't the usual internet panic cycle. These uploads were too fast, too widespread, too consistent. Another video surfaced, this one from a security guard at Cedar Point. He filmed from inside a booth, pointing at a statue on the boardwalk. It stood perfectly still until the guard zoomed in and the statue's hand, just slightly unclenched. Stone fingers cracking, shifting, reforming. He swore loudly and backed away from the window. The camera shook. The statue's head tilted just a few degrees, like it was adjusting its view of him. The comments exploded. "Bro, it moved. I heard the crack. It's smiling different. Look close. Get out of there." I felt my pulse thud in my neck. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, answered anyway. Static. Then a woman's voice, urgent, breathless. "This is CDC Field Dispatch. If you're the unit in Chicago, you need to get dressed and report immediately. We have a confirmed kinetic shift." I repeat, one of the statues just moved on live surveillance. I swallowed hard. This was it. The tipping point. The exact second horror finally arrived. "Where?" I asked. A long pause. A heavy breath. "Downtown. Millennium Park." The statue just turned its head toward a crowd. And then, in the background of the call, a loud impact. Something thick, heavy, glass shattering, screams. The woman's voice cracking. "Oh my God." IT punched through the door. The line went dead. I threw on my field jacket so fast I nearly ripped the zipper. Outside, the night felt wrong, quiet in a way Chicago never was. No cars, no chatter, just cold air and the distant echo of something that sounded like metal being torn apart. I jammed the keys into the ignition, but before I even started the car, another alert popped up on my phone. Emergency broadcast system. Civil warning. Chicago Metro. Do not approach the statues. Repeat, do not approach the statues. That was it. No explanation. No instructions. Just a warning. I floored it. Millennium Park, 3:41 a.m. Even from a block away, I saw the crowd running. People sprinted across Michigan Avenue, stumbling over each other, screaming, trying to get away from the open plaza where the statue had appeared earlier that day. That statue was still there, just not where it was supposed to be. It now stood on the stairs near the entrance, its head angled downward toward the scattering civilians. The smile, wider, cracked in the corners like stone splitting, and its arm, its entire arm, was raised mid-swing, frozen for the moment but clearly capable of motion. I parked sideways, didn't care how, just needed to get closer. "Hey!" I yelled, waving people away. "Move! Get back, go!" A man grabbed my arm. His face was cut, bleeding down his cheek. "It hit us," he cried. "I swear to God it hit us. It jumped, moved, whatever it is." "It didn't jump," another woman screamed behind him. "It walked. I saw it walk." My blood went cold. Stone shouldn't walk. Stone shouldn't bend. But the crackling sound in the air, a grinding, scraping, bone-on-stone vibration, told me it was bending now. I got close enough to see the damage. The stairs were cracked, like something heavy had stomped down with full force. The bench nearby was shattered, and a security door had been smashed inward, caved in by a single clean impact. A fist-shaped impact, the same sound I heard on the phone. "Everyone back," I shouted. "Away from it, now." Some listened, some filmed. Of course they filmed. And then, the statue moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just a tiny motion. Its hand curled inward, fingers tightening with a grinding clench like stone pressing against stone. A man too close screamed and stumbled back, convincing anyone filming that yes, this was real. This was happening. "Evan!" someone yelled. My head snapped around. He was there, my friend, running toward me, panting, sweat pouring down his forehead. "Bro, there's more." "What? Where?" His voice cracked. "All around the loop, every block. They're turning. They're looking at people." I grabbed him. "We have to get out of here, now." But Evan was staring behind me. His eyes widened. His mouth dropped open. "Dude!" I turned. The statue had shifted again. Both feet planted, body angled forward, and its smile looked alive for the first time. Like stone was stretching, like the face was adjusting to fit something moving beneath it. It leaned, just a little, enough to show it wasn't done, enough to show it was choosing its next target. Evan whispered, "Run," and the statue took its first step. The moment the statue stepped forward, everything in my body locked up. It wasn't fast. It wasn't some supernatural blur. It moved like something learning how to move. One foot scraped across the concrete with a grinding shriek, like a tombstone being dragged across the pavement. People screamed and bolted in every direction. Evan grabbed my jacket. "Move, bro. Move." We ran. The air behind us filled with the monstrous sound of stone grinding, cracking, reforming. Each step was stronger, smoother, like the statue was figuring out the mechanics of walking. Scray ape, thunk. Scray ape, thunk. We cut through a side street, past a row of dark shops. My heart slammed so hard I tasted metal. When we finally stopped behind a dumpster, gasping, Evan bent over and spat on the ground. "Bro, I thought that thing was gonna grab us." "It's not just that one," I said between breaths. "You said more around the loop?" He nodded, trembling hard. "I saw at least 3. One by the bus stop, one at the food court window, one was standing in the traffic lane, facing the cars. I peeked around the corner. The statue was in the street now, its body twisted unnaturally, legs bending in a way that didn't match human joints. Yet somehow it was getting faster. Each step was cleaner, more confident, less scraping, more impact. Then another sound echoed from deeper in the city. A second statue, and a third, a chorus of heavy stone footsteps slowly sinking together. My phone buzzed. A shaky alert popped up, clearly rushed. CDC Priority Bulletin. If you are in Chicago Metro, shelter indoors. Avoid line of sight with the statues. Do not engage. They may respond to attention. Respond to attention? What the hell did that mean? Evan grabbed my arm. "Bro, look." I followed his gaze to the rooftop of a small cafe across the street. A statue stood on the edge, looking down at us. Its head tilted slightly, not randomly, not awkwardly, curious, like it recognized us. No, I whispered. "They're coordinating." Evan shook his head violently. What do we do? What do we do, man?" I took a breath. I didn't know the answer until I heard the fourth sound. Not footsteps, not scraping. A punch. A statue hit the side of a bus so hard the entire metal frame buckled. A bus. A fucking bus. And then, it stepped through the hole it made. Evan backed away. Bro, we're gonna die." "No, we're not," I said, grabbing his sleeve. "We need to get underground. Right now." He stared blankly. "Where?" "Subway tunnels," I said. "Or maintenance corridors. Anywhere they can't see us. Because if they really did respond to attention, being in the open was suicide." We started running again. But before we could make it to the subway entrance, a statue dropped down from the cafe roof in front of us. A 12-foot fall. It landed perfectly upright. The smile cracked wider. Not happy, mocking. It raised its arm, and the streetlight beside us exploded from the shockwave of its fist cutting through the air. Not hitting anything, just the force of the swing alone shattered metal. Evan screamed. I grabbed him, dragging him backward as the statue stepped closer. The ground shook. We were out of time. It wound up for a second punch, right at us, and then a deafening horn blasted from the street. A city plow truck barreled around the corner, smashing directly into the statue at full speed. Stone fragments exploded everywhere. Evan and I dove to the ground as the statue toppled, cracks spiderwebbing across its body. The plow driver leaned out the window and shouted, "Get in! They're all over the..." He didn't finish, because behind him, 2 more statues emerged from the fog, and both of them started running. The emergency alert was still glowing on my phone when the room erupted into noise. Chairs scraping, analysts shouting over each other, phones ringing non-stop. I pushed through bodies to reach the main monitor wall. New footage was coming in, and this time it wasn't grainy live streams or shaky phone clips. This was security camera footage. Location: Chicago Botanical Gardens. Time: 10:41 p.m. Camera: parking lot C. A statue stood near a row of cars, one of the early ones. 8 feet tall, cement skin, that too happy, too wide smile. A security guard walked up, flashlight trembling. At first, he just circled the statue, talking to someone over his radio. "I don't know, man, it's just standing here. It wasn't here this morning. Looks like those ones online." He tapped the statue's leg with his baton. That was the moment the room went dead silent. The statue's head turned toward him, slow this time, deliberate, like it didn't care if it was seen. Then it stepped forward. Not fast, not dramatic, just one heavy, grinding step that cracked the pavement under its weight. The guard stumbled backward, screaming into his radio. We watched helplessly as the statue lifted its arm, not swinging, not punching, just raising it, as if testing how its joints moved. Then it brought the arm down, hard, not swinging like a human, more like a falling boulder. The camera glitched from the impact. When the feed stabilized, the guard wasn't standing anymore. The statue crouched over him, tilting its head as if studying something interesting. Someone in the ops room whispered, "Oh my God!" But the horror wasn't over. The statue picked something up off the ground. First, I thought it was debris. Then I realized it was the guard's flashlight. The statue held it upside down, studying the beam flickering across its own face like it was learning what light is. Then the statue looked directly into the camera. Not at the room, not at us, not symbolically. The statue looked straight down the lens, as if it noticed it was being watched, like it wanted us to know. The feed cut out. Someone behind me finally broke the silence. "They're not just moving, they're learning." I didn't respond, because my phone buzzed again. A message from my friend Mason, the one who first told me about the statues. "Bro." The statue near my apartment just turned its head. And the last message: "It's smiling at my window." I bolted out of HQ before anyone could stop me. Screw protocol. Screw waiting for authorization. Mason lived 10 minutes away, and statues didn't move slow anymore. I sped through empty Chicago streets, sirens wailing in the distance, blue lights bouncing off buildings. People were locking doors, dragging furniture, barricading windows. Every few blocks I saw a statue, standing perfectly still under streetlights, watching nothing but facing everything. When I reached Mason's building, the whole street looked frozen. Cars stopped in the middle of the road, one bus abandoned, lights flickering, and at the far end of the block, a statue stood by the curb. Its grin was carved deeper now, like cracks spreading from the corners. It wasn't moving, but it was angled toward Mason's apartment. I ran. By the time I reached his unit on the second floor, he'd shoved his dresser against the door. His voice cracked behind it. "Dude, is that you?" "It's me, open up." He hesitated, breathing hard. Then the door scraped open just enough for me to slip inside. His apartment was dark except for a lamp on the floor, curtains drawn, everything silent except the hum of the fridge. "What happened?" I asked. He didn't speak. Instead, he slowly pointed to the window. I followed his hand and felt every hair on my arms stand up, because directly across the alley, on the neighboring roof, stood another statue, taller than the rest, arms hanging long at its sides, head tilted at an unnatural angle, almost curious. The smile wasn't carved anymore. It looked wet, fresh, like someone had cut deeper into it minutes ago. "Mason," I whispered. "When did it get here?" "It watched me," he said. "It didn't move at first. But then, bro." Its head followed me when I walked across the room. "You sure it wasn't just your eyes?" Then the statue shifted, just a centimeter, but enough to make my stomach drop. It leaned closer to the ledge, shoulders rolling slowly, as if loosening muscles that shouldn't exist. Mason grabbed my sleeve. "Man, what do we do?" I stepped back, staring. They've never climbed before. "If it jumps?" Something metallic echoed outside. A fire escape ladder rattling down the wall. Mason's face drained. Bro. We froze, held our breath, listened. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of something heavy stepping onto the fire escape. And that's when I realized it wasn't climbing. It was descending. The statue dropped one level, then another. Slow, steady thuds shaking the metal frame. Mason grabbed my arm harder. "It's coming to us. It's..." "No," I said. I grabbed him by the shirt and yanked him toward the back door. "It's coming for me." Because through the window, the statue's head turned directly toward my shadow moving across the floor. And the smile widened. We burst into the stairwell, door slamming behind us. The echo shot down the concrete shaft like a gunshot. I grabbed Mason and whispered harshly, "Don't run. Don't make noise. They react to movement." He nodded, trembling. But above us, the fire escape groaned. Clang, clang, clang. The statue was still descending. I couldn't tell how fast because this was the part no videos had ever caught clearly. When statues moved with purpose, cameras glitched. Frames skipped. Technology didn't like whatever they were doing. We crept down the stairwell, floor by floor, keeping our steps light and slow. Mason whispered, "What do they want?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because I didn't want to say it yet. We reached the ground floor and eased into the lobby, breath fogging in the cold air. Outside the front windows, the street was empty, except for 3 more statues spaced out along the sidewalk, spread apart like sentries, different heights, different smiles, all facing the building. My stomach dropped. They weren't roaming. They were coordinating. "Hide," I whispered, pulling Mason into the front office. We crouched behind a counter, breathing shallowly. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Above us, something thudded onto the hallway floor. The statue had reached our level. Its footsteps were slow but heavy, each one leaving a faint vibration through the tile. Concrete scraping, limbs adjusting. Then we heard voices, real voices, coming from the stairwell behind it. A couple on the 3rd floor must have panicked and bolted. "Move, move, don't look back." Too late. Thud. Then a sound I can't unhear. A wet, sickening crunch, like a bag of meat hitting brick. Mason clamped his hand over his mouth. A second thud. A scream cut short. Then, silence. The statue shifted its weight again. Slow, calculating, like it was checking if anything else was moving. I leaned toward Mason and whispered, "They follow motion first, sound second, light last." "How do you know that?" "Because of the reports, the crime scenes, the tests the CDC had already conducted before the public even knew statues were real." But I didn't have time to explain. The statue paused in the hallway. Then, a sharp crack rang out. I peeked over the counter just in time to see the statue's hand press against the lobby glass, and spiderweb cracks spread under its palm. Mason's eyes widened. "Bro, it sees us." "No," I whispered. The cracks grew deeper, longer, faster. "It hears us." The statue reared its arm back. Boom! The entire window exploded inward. Glass rained across the floor. Shards sliced my cheek. The statue stepped through the opening, its smiling head bent low, listening, scanning, searching for the slightest twitch. Mason trembled beside me, and then his phone buzzed. A notification. One single vibration. Just enough movement to make the statue snap its head toward our hiding spot. I grabbed Mason, but the statue was already lunging. The statue lunged so fast the world blurred. Not fluid like a person, more like gravity yanking a slab of concrete in our direction. I shoved Mason sideways as the counter exploded above us. Chunks of wood, glass, and paperwork blasted into the air. The statue's arm had punched straight through it, not swinging, not aiming, just dropping its weight like a demolition hammer. I dragged Mason across the tile, both of us sliding on shattered glass. "Get up! Get up!" He scrambled to his feet just as the statue pulled its arm free, head snapping toward us again. Its grin looked bigger now, pulled so wide the mouth cracked all the way to its jawline. We sprinted toward the maintenance hallway. Behind us, thud, thud, thud. The statue followed, not running, not walking, but taking long, weight-dropping lunges that shook the floor tiles loose. I slammed my shoulder into the maintenance door. Locked. "Move!" Mason cried, hands shaking. I grabbed a fire extinguisher off the wall and smashed it into the handle. Crack, clang, pop. The door swung open and we stumbled inside, slamming it shut. Something hit the other side immediately. Boom! Dust rained from the ceiling. Another hit, then another. The metal door bent inward like foil. "They're learning how doors work," I whispered. "They're learning everything." Mason snapped, voice cracking. We backed up until my heel hit something on the floor. Toolbox, heavy, metal, full of wrenches and steel bars. I stared at it, then at the bending door. Mason saw my expression. "Bro, no, you're not thinking." But I already grabbed the longest wrench, because if we didn't fight, we'd die pinned in this hallway. The door buckled so far inward that the statue's fingers appeared through the gap. Long, stone-carved digits poking blindly like they were feeling the air. I whispered, "Stay behind me." Finally, the metal gave. Crash. The statue burst through, stumbling over the warped door frame. For a second, its body tilted awkwardly, weight shifting to correct itself. A tiny opening. I swung the wrench with everything I had. Clang, crack. It hit the statue's head, and for the first time ever, I saw one react. The impact sent a spiderweb of fractures across its skull. The statue jerked backward, losing balance and slamming into the wall. Mason gasped, "Dude, you heard it." The statue froze, body twitching like it was processing the sensation, and then tilted its head again, farther and farther and farther, until its neck snapped completely sideways with a dry crack. But it didn't fall. It just reset its posture like nothing happened. Then it lunged again. I swung, again and again, steel smashing into concrete. Cracks spread, pieces chipped. The statue's grin distorted as half its jaw split off and fell. Then, my wrench snapped in half. "Run!" I yelled. We tore down the rest of the hallway and burst into the underground parking garage. The air was colder, darker, echoing. Rows of silent cars. Shadows everywhere. Then Mason grabbed my arm. "Bro, look." My stomach dropped. At the far end of the garage, 3 more statues stood between the pillars, all facing us, all smiling. And worse, the damaged one behind us started making a sound. Not breathing, not grinding stone, but a low, vibrating hum, like it was calling the others. The humming grew louder, deep, vibrating through the concrete floor, through my bones. The 3 statues at the far end of the garage responded immediately. They turned their heads toward us in perfect sync. Mason whispered, "We're dead. We're actually dead." "No," I said, even though I didn't believe it. "We're going to make it to the exit ramp." It was on the left side of the garage, barely 30 yards away. A steel shutter door, manual crank. If we reached it, we could slip under and disappear into the street. The statues didn't move yet. They were watching what the damaged one behind us would do. And it was learning. I grabbed Mason's arm. "When I say run, run. Don't stop. Don't look back." He nodded shakily. The damaged statue limped toward us. One leg dragging, half its jaw missing, fractures across its skull. It wasn't fast, but its movement was erratic, like gravity dragged it in bursts. The humming hit a pitch that rattled the air. So I grabbed a loose tire iron off the ground. "Hey!" I shouted at the damaged statue. "Come on!" It snapped toward me instantly. Then the 3 statues ahead began to move. Not walking, not sprinting, closing distance unnaturally, like the space between us bent with each step. I swallowed hard. "Run!" We bolted. The statues reacted at once. Heavy lunges, pavement cracking under them, their smiles stretching wider as they gained on us. Mason tripped on a fallen hubcap, slammed to the ground, sliding across oil-stained concrete. I spun back, grabbed him, yanked him up. A statue's arm smashed down beside him, missing his skull by inches and denting the floor like soft clay. We sprinted again, my legs burning, breath tearing through my chest. 5 yards from the exit. 4, 3. The first statue lunged. I shoved Mason under the half-open emergency shutter. Then the statue's hand wrapped around my coat. A grip like steel cables. I felt myself get lifted off the ground, the world tilting, the grin inches from my face. Its cracked jaw dangled. Red streaks, paint or blood, dripped down the concrete cheeks. Pulled me closer. I screamed and swung the tire iron into its fractured skull. Crack. The statue's head split, a deep vertical fissure running from crown to chin. It loosened its grip just enough. I dropped to the floor and rolled under the shutter, grabbing the chain and ripping it downward. The statues lunged, but the door slammed shut in their faces. The concrete shook as they smashed into it from the other side. Over and over, rhythmic, determined. Mason and I stumbled into the alley, gasping, shaking, covered in dust and blood. Sirens echoed in the distance. News alerts pinged nonstop on my phone. Every corner of Chicago had statues moving now, and everywhere else soon. Mason leaned against the wall, panting. "Man, what do we do now?" I looked back at the trembling shutter, metal bending inward with each impact. "We evacuate the city," I said. "But after tonight?" I stared down the dark streets, empty but somehow watched. "I don't think anywhere will stay safe for long." The shutter finally cracked. A small chunk of cement hand pushed through the gap. I grabbed Mason's arm. "We run." And we did. Into a night where every shadow could be smiling, every statue could be listening, and every city might be next.